Teacher.
So, Don Clifton had a line about the American Management Association, which I promise you this is a good line. The notion of the American Management Association was that you get work done through people. And his lovely reframing around it was, no. You don't get work done through people, you get people done through work. That is the teacher mentality. Of all the 9 strengths roles, teacher was the one that we began with. Because the whole point of doing the standout assessment was to go, what if you take it, look, people's gender, people's race, people's age, blah, 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 it all it gives you no clue as to what a particular person's angle of attack is. And if you're a teacher, your angle of attack, your entire kind of approach to life and the people within the life is that their growth is the point. What's the point of life? What's the meaning of life? The meaning of life isn't happiness, says the teacher. The meaning of life isn't joy. The meaning of life, says the teacher, is for a person to learn and grow. Some of that learning will be painful. Some of that learning will be joyful. But the point is for you to come into this life and experience as much as you can possibly experience so that you will learn and grow. That's what we were trying to capture with the teacher standout strengths role. It doesn't mean you're a teacher. Michelle's, Nikki, stepdad, was a 37-year teacher. It was number 7. He was a little pissed off about it. It was number 7 on his list. It's like, wait, you said I'm not a good teacher? No, because his lead one was advisor, right? So he's that sort of teacher. He was, as with all these strengths roles, they won't tell you what job you should do. If you have teacher as number 1, it doesn't mean you should be a teacher. What it means is we gave you 34 different scenarios, and then under a timer you had to jump one way, jump one way, jump one way. If you got teacher as number 1, it's because every single chance we gave you to jump in a direction that said the other person's learning, choices, growth, understanding. That's the primary filter through which you understand the world. We gave you 34 different choices to jump. If teacher was number 1, it's because you kept jumping in a way that said more choice, more questions, more curiosity, more individualization. That's what teachers do. And so if you have teacher as number 1, I mean, who knows what your job is? You could be a private investigator, you could be a jockey, you could be an undertaker, you could be a merchant banker. Who knows what you're doing? You could be a teacher. Your whole orientation is that each person, including you, by the way, you are in this mix. Each person is a work in progress. That's how you think. Each person is the point of the person is the learning. The point of the person is the growth and the discovery and the ongoing, slightly uncomfortableness of it all. You think that's the point. And of course, for us, we're drawn to you because we think that you're going to start with your questions. The beautiful thing about you, one of the things that maybe for you, I'm sure it feels like breathing, but for the rest of us feels weird, is you start with questions about where we're at. You understand that the only way you can help a person grow is to understand where they are now. You grow from where you are now. You don't even know maybe you do. But one of the beautiful things about a teacher is you've got a ton of really beautiful open-ended questions about where is the person. We just
it makes like
talking
I
to
feel like they start by listening.
Yes.
So you always feel heard.
Yes.
To me, every teacher I've known gives you that space. It's like it's about you first. It's the questions first. It's you first. They're super curious.
And that sounds so obvious when you say it. Well, it's you first. When you feel it, when you feel it, when somebody asks you those questions first, it feels so lovely, doesn't it? That's what, if you're a teacher, again, as with all of these 9 strengths roles, if you're a teacher, it just feels so natural. It's like breathing. But one of the unique, powerful things you bring to the rest of us is, most of the time we go through life and someone is telling us who we are. Someone is giving us advice. Someone is giving us feedback. Someone is telling us what to press next. And what you do is you don't do that. You start with your questions. And so for us, we feel like, I mean, of course, everybody should do that. Everybody should start with questions. But that's true for all of the 9 strengths roles. We should all be all of the 9. We aren't. I mean, all of the 9 are useful. All of the 9 are valuable. Could you learn more about how to grow and get better if you studied all of the 9? Yes. But you won't always lead with all of the 9. If you're a teacher, you lead by letting us speak. Oh my gosh.
Which is so rare. I mean, as you always say, a conversation is a battle of eyes. And so when you come across a teacher, it feels, sometimes it kind of stops you
in your tracks.
Yeah, because like if I'm talking to Jen, it's always a bunch of questions like, let's talk about you, and there's all this space, and as a stimulator I feel a little bit uncomfortable in that space, but it's a really unique skill, and it's one of those skills that like books are written about. You want to be a good coach?
Yeah.
My whole CTI learning was like, when I read this, it's like, this is how you are. This is, if you're this, you're a good, life coach.
It is. It's one of those things where Michelle just mentioned the battle of the eyes. Try this. From now on, prick up your ears and listen. This is so weird if you do this. Listen to every conversation from here on out. Almost all conversations have no questions in them. Almost all conversations are a battle of eyes. So it'll be like if I said to Michelle, I didn't sleep well last night. And then she'll go, wow,
I slept worse.
I didn't sleep well last night either. I have a hard time falling asleep on planes. Right. And it's I. And we do it because we're trying to empathize, I suppose, with the other person, make the other person's experience feel normalized because we have it too. But it's the oddest thing. What it means is that no one's listening to anyone. Everyone's asserting. Most conversations are a battle of assertions. The teacher, why you are so darn seductive to the rest of us is you don't play that game. You don't do the battle of the eyes. You start with questions. You go, you open us up. Why didn't you sleep well last night? What did you dream of? What were you thinking? How did it feel? It's jarring. It is jarring. But you feel, the reason it's jarring is because we don't experience it very much in the world. And so for you, if you think about your contribution, curious first. What a beautiful thing that is. By the way, yes, we should all learn from you. Curious first. Everything else second. Curious first, everything else second. When you listen to these podcasts, when you read these books where people are telling you how to behave and they're telling you what to do, I'm sure you feel like you want to go, time out. Isn't the answer to what I should do to have a happier life or a more fulfilled life or a more successful life? Isn't the very first answer to all of that? It depends. It depends on the person. It depends on what they're going through. It depends on who they are. It depends on the situation. You as the teacher, you're the person who understands that we can't give generic anything, generic advice, generic lessons, generic suggestions. We've got to start by going, Michelle, where are you at? What's your situation? What's your outlook? What are your strengths? What's your feeling? What story are you telling yourself? And when we encounter a person like you, whether it's in client service, whether it's in sales, whether it's in management, leadership, when we encounter a person like you, we find what you've created for us is space. That's your greatest value to any team. You create space.
And huge amounts of trust.
You create the trust because you create the space. You ask a question and then you shut up. You don't even know how much of a gift that is. You ask a question and then you shut up. Most of us, we ask a question because we know a little answer and we're just ready to come in with our answer. How many people, Jenny B is like this, mutual friend. It's my sister and my brother-in-law were over Christmas, and one's a ballet dancer, one's a choreographer, and they're sort of struggling with their own trajectory in life. And Jen B spent an hour and a half, 2 hours with each of them with a whiteboard. And all she did was just ask lots and lots and lots of questions about each one of them. My sister now had 20 years as a professional ballet dancer. Now she's got to think about her next moves. Ben, her husband, is a choreographer. How does he do that while also dancing? Well, like a bunch of, and Jen is not a dancer. She doesn't necessarily know this world at all. Both of them came away and they were glowing because for the first time in a really, really, really long time, someone had spent like 2 hours on each of them and asked questions and shut up, and then they just talked. And I don't know whether or not Jenny B had told them what to do, what not to do. She just heard. As I said, every one of these 9 strengths roles we could all draw some important life lesson from. If you were to draw a life lesson from the teacher, it would be ask the question, listen, no judgment. Don't give advice.
And also
just listen.
Like and with all of our strengths, because that's woven so tightly within teachers, they don't know what a gift it is. So I love that you said that. Also, I think what's super special and something that is deliberately done by Jen, who knows she's a teacher,
right.
But it's because not only do they listen in the moment, but they're constantly reading and doing research, and they get excited about their own learning.
Yes.
And their learning becomes our lessons. And so I love that when she sends me an article and it's so specific on something she heard me say 2 weeks ago.
Right.
That's where you're just floored, because it's super authentic and it's really rare to find. So like doing more of that, I just think it's such a rare commodity, and that personal.
Yes, and it's someone is scouring the world. It's like such a beautiful thing to know that someone is scouring the world and constantly looking for some source of input, some article, some discovery, some experience, some person, something, and it might just help you learn, which is very different than the connector, by the way. You're a connector. Connectors are doing it for an entirely different reason. They're doing it because there might just be that combination effect is exciting. That combination effect of this person with this situation, this detail. The teacher's just doing it because, hey, you need raw material to interact with to help you engage and grow. The two, let's say 3 things that teachers bring that, if you are one, please cherish it about you, is number 1, you give space. All the teachers I've known, they ask the question and they give space. They know every time you make a rule, you take away a choice. Every time you take away a choice, you take away a chance to learn. So they leave lots of space. By the way, teachers, if you are one of the reasons why you frustrate people is you leave too much space, right? Like, it's a flip side of every one of these strengths roles has a flip side, where it's like, if you hold people accountable to your standards, they will come up short. And on the flip side of that is the person going, well, you've left so much space. Where's the roadmap? Exactly. So the first thing that the great teachers do, you leave space. That's such a beautiful thing to offer the world. Second, you individualize. You, more than anybody else in terms of these 9 strengths roles, you realize the power of the phrase, it depends. It depends. It depends. It depends on the person. It depends on the situation. You flipping hate generalizations. You hate these pablums that we read about how to have a better life, how to parent our children, how to manage people. You listen to all of that and you go, wait a minute, which child? Which parent? What situation? The it depends part of what you do is just everything. If you dialed that up, we would all learn from you, because we are so...
They want you to, they're giving you choice. They want you...
We're giving you attention because your situation may be different.
But the teacher wants to give you a choice.
So choice is the space. Individualization is the who the heck. It's the chess playing versus the checker playing, or the drafts playing if you're from Europe. But the third beautiful, crazy, bizarre thing is you love mess. So many of us, maybe myself and maybe Michelle included, we're trying to tidy things up. If you're a creator, you're trying to tidy things up. If you're an advisor, you're trying to tidy it up into action.
Well,
if you're
a stimulator, you say that we always look for what's right. I feel like we do that selfishly because we don't want to see the mess.
The mess.
As a teacher, you see the possibility in imperfection.
Yes.
So it's like...
So the messiness of a person
is the project.
Is the point. And boy, I mean, seriously, every single one of these 9 strengths roles, when we start to sit down to talk about them, I fall in love with, you just want everyone to be teachers, because it's like, we're messy.
I think you fall in love with the intelligent expression of each.
Yes, sorry, that's a really good distinction. The intelligent expression of a teacher is a wholehearted and super curious owning of the messiness and the imperfection of each human. All of us are broken. But all of us are broken in just the right ways that allow every one of us to hook onto something to grow. And the space that you as a teacher give us to experiment, to try, to learn, and then the input of new stuff that you might throw our way, some little insight, some little book, some little experience. You love like there's no ladder, there's no career ladder. In your mind, you go, oh my word, there's a jungle gym at best. It's a squiggly line, but actually for you, probably the best metaphor as you think about a person's career ladder is you go, this is a scavenger hunt. You look at your kids and you go, scavenger hunt. You're gonna, well, put something in front of you, go try and find it. Put something else in front of you, go try and find it. Who knows when you're going to come back? It's not like there is a lockstep. Maybe the equalizers amongst us would go, it would be nice if you're like, nah, the scavenging is the learning.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How in the corporate world would a teacher deal with this? Because the corporate world is demanding. Show me the plan. You know, we don't have much time. You've thought about, and we look to teachers because one, we trust them, and then they know a lot. So they're usually super smart, show up really smart. So then when it comes to like I feel like I naturally want to go, tell me exactly what to do. You know, once you trust someone, you found out, and they're listening, it's like, tell me what to do. So in the corporate, do you find something?
Yeah, well, first things first, of course, the corporate world has changed. So maybe 30 years ago, we would go corporate ladder and teachers would be like, that feels so weird to me. Today, of course, we're all making this up as we go along. Everybody's career is contingent. You try this, then you try a bit of this, then you try a bit of that, and then you try a bit of this. And so in a weird way, we're moving into a teacher world because it's a world where people are just going to choose, learn. And there's no right or wrong route, right? We're just making this up as we go along. And for a teacher, that isn't a criticism. That is a mantra. That's a life mantra. And for you teachers, please get really good at describing to the other people on your team how you approach things. Because you are, of all of these 9 strengths roles, you are probably the least oriented toward closure. Almost everywhere, every situation, you're like, let's ask. And I promise you there'll be some other people on the team who are going to want to go, stop it. Close it and move. Close it, make a decision and move. Where's the roadmap? Where's the decision about brand, for example? Brand needs to choose, you need to choose, not this but that. Teachers hate choosing for somebody else because they know that the person's own choices are the fuel for learning. That's how people learn. That's how kids learn. That's how everybody learns.
So how do they communicate that
well, as with all these 9 things, it's like you've got to learn how to explain yourself to someone else. Because a teacher to a stimulator, if you have a teacher talking to a stimulator, imagine that. By the way, I know you might have teacher and stimulator, so now you're talking to yourself and you're fighting yourself sometimes. But a stimulator goes, the story's this. We don't have 7 protagonists. This is the story of this one protagonist. It's like a brand story.
Because they've gotten excited about it.
Yes.
They feel it.
And they know that too much choice. Like how many? There was a thing. There was an episode of, I think it was Black Mirror, where everyone could choose their own ending. Like if I really think about it, I can remember the name of the series, remember the name of the episode. But
that's annoying.
Super annoying. But anyway, choose everything. There was about 20 different points during the hour episode where you could choose X, Y, or Z, and the story would go off in a different direction. Well, I'll tell you what, there was a very small subset of people that really enjoyed that story, and the people that hated it were the stimulators, and the people that loved it were the teachers. Because the stimulators were like, this is a crappy story. A story is a choice. A brand is a choice, right? We are this. We are about this. We stand for this. This is important to us. The stimulator in this case goes, that's our story. The teacher's like, don't close it down. Who could we be? Let me get another whiteboard and another marker, and I'll ask 6 more questions about what we could be. So for teachers in the corporate world, you know, it's funny, we talk so much about how we ought to build companies where people are always learning and growing, blah, blah, blah. But learning and growing is a function of keeping options open, keeping choices open. And so for you teachers, you're going to, on teams, you're going to have to say, listen, I'm the person that's going to keep the options open all the time. When we fight other members of my team, it will be because you guys, in my view, are trying to close down the options too early. Now, you're just going to have to remember as a teacher, you're not right about this. You're just different. And the difference, frankly, is that the messiness of the world for you is the raw material for learning and growth and development and understanding. That's not true for everybody. There's an awful lot of people around the team, of your team, who want to tidy things up. And I mean literally tidy things up. I mean close down the options so we can move. And they're not wrong, and you're not right, and you're not wrong, and they're not right. You're just different. So for us, for the rest of us, we're drawn to you because it's like, oh my word, this is a person who is listening to me and who thinks that my experience of life is legitimate and interesting and the most relevant starting point. That is so seductive. Practice your questions.
Seductive is the best word.
Isn't it seductive? You're like drawn. Why are you drawn to Jenny B? You're drawn to Jenny B because you go, she's going to spend 2 hours with my sister, and she's not doing it because she's a long-suffering soul. She's doing it because she's got 20 open-ended questions she wants to ask someone whose life and career she doesn't really know at all. But she knows, Jen does, that if she asks these questions, my sister can step into those open-ended questions, and Jen can see my sister discovering her next 10 years.
Now,
oh my word, what a
Jen
gift.
She can't do a one and done. So like your sister goes back to England and her little heart's like, I want to keep growing her. So that's interesting.
Yeah, so the hard thing for you as teachers, frankly, is that people are going to lean on you all the time. You're going to have to create, and this is probably true in some respects for every strength, but you're going to have to create your own boundaries because most teachers, do they embrace the messiness? Do they embrace the individuality of each child? Do they allow a ton of choice? Well, I said those were the 3 characteristics of the great teacher in terms of this definition of teacher. You look at the way most teachers are forced to teach. There's no messiness, there's no individualization, there's no choice. The child is just supposed to take on board this information according to this subject or that one or this one, and they test it. It is kind of ironic, isn't it, don't you think? That most actual teachers whose job it is to teach are not encouraged. If they did have teacher as their top strength role, they would not be encouraged to embrace messiness, individualization, and choice. That's a subject maybe for a different conversation. But please know that you teachers, you are a force for creating the context in which all of us can choose and learn and grow in as messy a way as we possibly could. And without you, the whole world is shut down and the whole world is less.